Hi, Derek. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Are you a member of the committee?
Yes,
Great. Welcome.
thank you.
Brooke, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
You're a member of the committee?
I am.
Great. I'll repeat this several times, but as we get going, I'll ask each of you to mute so we don't get over talk, and then we'll try to follow a reasonable process of inviting people to speak and unmute. Jamie, is it Jamie?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm pronouncing names right. Nathan? Jana, you can hear me?
I can.
Have I pronounced your name right?
Correct.
Great. Let's see.
Yeah, Nathan or Nate, both are fine.
Okay.
Amelia's music teacher.
Maybe when you have a last name like Plotho, you're used to having it mispronounced. Lindsay, you can hear me okay? Okay. Amy, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm sorry. I can. Thank you.
Do you have access to video?
I do.
I'd love to have you all use your video so we can see your faces and communicate as close to real life as possible. Christy, can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, I can hear you.
Great. And do you have access to video?
Yeah, that's alternative. I can do it after my meeting via email.
Okay, Peter, Are you, Nathan, are you still having trouble with mute? Okay. Biff, you can hear me? Eric, you can hear me? Samantha? Great. One, two, three. Hi, Adam. You can hear me okay? Good. Jean, you can hear me all right?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I couldn't unmute.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for turning my sound on. I realized I couldn't unmute myself.
There are powers greater than I that are controlling the technology, and that's a good thing. I'm going to give it just one more minute to make sure that all of those who are supposed to be here are here, and we'll start. I'm going to aim for a hard 5 o'clock start finish. We do have 2 more meetings coming up, I know, so let's do this in segments. And if we get done early by some chance, we'll finish early. Melissa, can you hear me? All right, Melissa, can you hear me? You may need to unmute. I can't tell if you're muted.
Doesn't look like Melissa's connected to audio yet.
Okay. Oh, there's Melissa. Okay, you can hear me, Melissa? Great. And Laura can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do any of you know if there are any members of either group that aren't yet here? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and get us started, and there may be others who will join us later on. So my name, first of all, a couple of just quick matters of technical behavior. What I'd prefer is that stay muted, and then I'll mention you by name, and so that everyone will have a chance to speak. But I'm sure you've all been in Zoom meetings where there are this many people and there's a lot of over talking, and it gets to be confusing. And so I appreciate it if you would stay muted. You have control of your mute, and when the time comes, we'll make sure that everybody gets to be heard from. Let me introduce myself. My name is Roger Plotho. I am a member of the staff at Idaho Business for Education. I'm the program manager for the Youth Apprenticeship Program, and I am in charge of the Eastern Idaho part of the Youth Apprenticeship Program that is administered by Idaho Business for Education. So I'm addressing you from Idaho Falls, where it's snowing, as usual. I have done quite a bit of this kind of moderating and mediating work in the past, and I appreciate your willingness to be involved in this. I fully appreciate how difficult this process is for everybody. when people ran for school board the last time, they did not see COVID coming and may have thought twice had they known what we were in for. I am also a teacher. I teach adjunct. I'm a member of the adjunct faculty at both Gonzaga University and College of Eastern Idaho, and I have taught both online and face-to-face. So, and I have children and grandchildren. So I think we all share the same passion and concern for our children, and that's one of the things that we have in common as we go into this. So I want to just start with a reminder of what our mandate is, which is fairly narrow in scope. I have a copy of the motion that was passed by the school board, and I want to read it here just as a reminder of what our mandate is from the school board. And that is, the motion was to update the reopening plan to align with state reopening guidelines and include our current hybrid model when the alert level is red, and that the district continue in this model until the Thanksgiving break. And the second part of that, which is the most important to us, is that the superintendent convene a stay open committee, of which you are members, of teachers and parents to identify metrics for movement into hybrid or remote. So our objective after 3 meetings is to do the best we can to agree upon a set of metrics that would be presented to the superintendent, that would then be presented to the school board to help guide them on making future decisions beyond the Thanksgiving break. Are we all so far on the same page? Good. I see a lot of heads nodding. That's good. For this meeting, again, we're going to take this in pieces. We're going to try to get done what we can as part of each conversation. So today, we're going to talk about, one, what information do you need that you don't currently have? Do you need access to information? Whatever that is, let's identify what that might be. We have someone who is taking notes, taking minutes of this meeting, and we can identify what that information is and get it to you. So that's our first step, is let's make sure that before we meet again, you have received all the information that you require to engage this process. The second thing we're going to talk about is process itself. I want to just get your input on how you want to proceed. Now there are 20 people, and at some point we're just going to have to go forward, but I want to get your input on how you would like to go forward here, and what the best process is for you to arrive at the mandate, to complete the mandate that we've been given. We'll talk about, if not tonight, then certainly in our next meeting, we will talk a little bit about what form you want the outcome of this process to take. Are we going to have several ideas and vote and provide the superintendent with, it was 13-7, or do we want to try to get to a consensus? Do we want to have something that's unanimous? We're going to share those kinds of ideas and try to arrive at how we want to go forward. I don't think I need to say this, but I just to lay some groundwork. I know that we all share the same care for students and children and education. You wouldn't be involved in this if you didn't. The area where where there is disagreement is how to go about taking care of those children and taking care of education. And it is possible to share that concern for children and disagree on how to go about making that turning that into a plan. And I want us all to approach this with that idea that we come to this from a point of view of wanting to do the right thing. And just because not everybody agrees does not mean that they are better or worse people than we are. It's just how it is. And this is about as knotty an issue as I've ever come across. And so it's not surprising that we are in a really difficult place. I presume that a lot of you know each other, but I don't know you. And so what I'd like to do first is have each of you take about 20 or 30 seconds and just introduce yourselves to me and to the rest of the group. Tell us which group you are representing and just a little bit about yourself. And we'll do that, try to get through that quickly. And I'm going to go, I'm not sure if my grid looks the same as yours, but I'm going to go the way, kind of clockwise, the way my grid looks. And so I'll start with Brooke. And just when it comes to you, just unmute, give us a quick introduction and then mute back up. Brooke, you're first.
My name is Brooke Taylor, and I am on the parent side. I was born and raised in Nampa and greatly care about our community and all of the children in it.
Thank you. Derek?
My name is Derek Riggs. I am in my 14th year with the Nampa School District. I'm a physical education teacher at Ronald Reagan, and I'm on the teacher side.
I'm gonna make a suggestion here. Side makes it sound like we're playing kickball or boxing. Let's use the term group.
I'm in the teacher group.
Great. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Toscano, and I am with the parents group.
Thank you. Nathan?
Hi, I'm Nate Thomas. I am a teacher at New Horizons Dual Language School, teaching music, kindergarten through 7th grade currently.
Kim?
I'm Kim Bowen. I'm in my 10th year teaching. I am obviously on the teacher group, and I teach AP biology.
Great. Jana? There you go.
Okay, there, said it wouldn't let me unmute. I'm Jana Volkers. I've been teaching in the Nampa School District for 22 years. I teach agricultural education at Columbia High School. I was selected on this committee, I believe, to be a teacher representation, but I also have 4 children in the school district. I have 3 at Ronald Reagan and 1 at Columbia High School.
Great. Lindsay?
Hi, my name is Lindsay. I teach at Snake River Elementary School. This is my 8th year of teaching, and I teach 4th grade.
Great, thank you. Biff?
Hi, my name is Biff Hall. I'm a teacher out at Union High School, and currently I have a load of freshmen.
Great. Eric?
Hi, I'm Eric Main. I am the vocal music instructor at Nampa High School, and I am also a grandparent of 2 in the Nampa School District.
Thank you. Samantha?
I am Samantha Callis. I teach 2nd grade at Willow Creek Elementary, and I also have 2 kids in the district, 1 at Lone Star Middle School and 1 at Nampa High School.
Thanks. Adam?
Hi there, my name is Adam Nunez. I am a 6th grade ELA and ELL, English Language Learner, teacher at East Valley Middle School, and this is my 5th year working at East Valley.
Terrific. Thank you. Jean?
I'm Jean Mutchie, and I am a parent of a 8th grader at South.
Thank you. Laura?
Hello, I'm Laura Zimmerman, and I have 3 kids in the district, one at Reagan, one at East Valley, and one at Columbia.
Wonderful. Melissa?
My name is Melissa Transtrom. I have 4 kids. 2 of them are at Skyview, and the other 2 are actually out at Victory Charter School. So we kind of get to see how other people are doing it as well. So I think I can bring that viewpoint on as well.
Great. Thank you. Christy, Christy?
I'm Christy. I have 2 kids in the district, one in 8th grade at West and a senior at Nampa High. And then I had one graduate also from Nampa High a few years ago.
Great, thank you. Nicole, no, Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole D'Alabama. I am a special education teacher at Owyhee Elementary. And I also have a daughter that is attending Skyview High School in the 9th grade.
Great, thank you. Kyler?
Hi, yes, Kyler James. Lived in the Valley most of my life at this point, a recent return. Have 3 children, 1 attending South and 2 at Lake Ridge.
Thank you. And Chandra, I'm going to tell me how to pronounce your name so I get it right the next time.
Yeah, it's Chandra.
Okay,
And,
Chandra.
I'm on the in the parent group. I have one at Nampa High West and Greenhurst Elementary. And I also teach at Boise State. So I'm in this parent group, but I'm on a teacher side in a whole other conversation. So.
Thank you. Have I missed anybody?
Yeah, hi, this is Amy Bowman. I'm a parent of 2 kiddos. They both go to Lone Star, one in 8th grade and one in 6th grade.
I'm sorry I missed you, Amy.
It's okay.
Anybody else that I missed? Okay, so what I'd like to do next is, again, the purpose for our conversation tonight is really to identify process, to identify information that we want. And if we have time, we'll go into the beginnings of a discussion about identifying where we might agree and what the disagreement points are, and start identifying opportunities to close those gaps. So let's start with information. What information do you not have that you'd like to have? And what I'd like you to do is raise your hand, just like in class, and I'll say your name, and then you can unmute and respond to the question. So first of all, let's talk about information. What do you want to see? Kim?
All right, so first I was wondering if we can get some information from Southwest District Health for both Canyon County and possibly Nampa throughout this whole process, so that we can analyze the possibility of increase or correlation of increase of cases after holidays. Since we have 2 big holidays coming up here shortly, the possibility of maybe choosing what we need to do coming up in these big holiday months, what we need to do.
Let me make sure I understand precisely what you're looking for. So you want current information, but you want to be able to get information ongoing in a timely way. And what's the best way to get your hands on that? Is that
correct? I want to see a timeline so we can break down the timeline of cases, so we can see where the increases are. We should know that it's about 2 weeks after every holiday, but I would like to show a correlation in that.
Okay. Okay, good. Another hand. Nate, go ahead.
The governor mentioned in his announcement today the importance of childcare for essential workers, particularly nurses, healthcare staff, etc. I think it'd be great if we knew how many of those we had in the district, nurses, police, fire, etc.
Okay. Amy?
Hi, I would love to, I'm just on the website now and I'm not finding the surveys that have been done, the parent feedback or teacher feedback. That would be great to have any of the recent surveys that have been done.
Okay, and I'm just going to, before I go any further, I'm going to mention to Peter, who is with the district and handling the technical side of this, just to make sure that we're getting all of this written down. I want to be able to get this to you so that by Monday you've got this information and you can start going through it if you haven't had access to it before. So who else? Biff.
I was wondering if we have any information on current spread through the different schools in the district, if we have any of that information.
Okay. Adam?
I have two and maybe a third question. I would like to know how many students are actually being tested. I know a number are out on quarantine or isolation, but I would like to know how many students are actually being tested. I would also like to know if we are reviewing medical metrics, and I'm not sure how many of us have medical training, so I was hoping, or I was wondering if medical professionals would be reviewing our metrics and what we are defining.
So when you say medical metrics for laypersons like myself, can you describe that in a little more detail, what you're talking about?
Sure. If we're talking about like positive percentages, if we're talking about like the hospital capacity, hospitalizations, if we're talking about the rising number of cases, if we're talking about, I don't know, probable cases, or if we're talking about number of students quarantining and increased chance of the spread within the school, just all these things that are in the news daily, these buzzwords that we hear, I'm assuming those are the metrics that we're talking about for reopening. Or if not, if we do end up talking about medical metrics such as those, will those be reviewed by medical professionals?
Okay, got it.
And then I kind of, sorry, I had another question, but maybe I can define it further later. But I know of a number of teachers who have disability files or notes from doctors that said you should not be working in the red zone. And so now that we've tripped the red zone and we're deciding whether or not to go forward, I was just wondering if the district would also get us information on how that might proceed should we actually end up continuing in teaching in red, considering that those were filed when the teachers had said, well, to their doctor that, for example, I wouldn't be teaching in red, and the doctor said, okay, it's not too risky for you to go in yellow or orange, but now that we've tripped the red, that's a concern for a lot of people.
Okay. Kim, sorry, go ahead.
I kind of wanted to go back to the parent survey a little bit. So as we heard in the school board meeting about the possibility of the potential compromising of the parent survey that's been out already, I was wondering if we have the ability to send out another parent survey that has the possibility to give us a single link, a one-time link for every family so that they can only take it once. So that way we don't have multiple people taking it multiple times, and that it can't be sent out to other people that are not in our district, which is what possibly or potentially could have happened. And that way we can maybe get a better idea of the sample data of what we have from our parents.
Okay. I think I know what you're asking for there. Lindsay?
I'd like information on substitute teachers. So like every day, how many teachers are out on average and how many of those spots are actually filled by subs. So we can see like our buildings covering by using personnel that are already there, or do we actually have a sub shortage? and how many teachers are actually not able to come in and teach during this time.
Okay. Biff?
I'd like to know if we've had an audit on the current plans, the fidelity of following the current plans that we have in the different schools.
So let me, again, just to make sure I understand, there's been a plan. Has it been followed?
Right, for the different schools. I think the different schools have ways that they're going to keep their plans going, and so just an audit of how they've been doing with that.
Jamie? There you go.
So I would like information on screening. What are the schools doing to screen the students as they enter the building? Because I know for doctor's appointments, things like that, they check your temperature, you know, and are they checking students' temperatures to make sure parents aren't sending their kids with fevers? I'd like that information.
Okay. I've seen some other hands here. Yes, Jean?
Thanks. I would like to have better data to understand Southwest District's health return to school protocol versus where medical providers intersect with that. I work at St. Luke's, and I think the data that we have sometimes look different than the health district data. And also I want you guys to know that those data lag. So what you're seeing out of the health districts is usually a couple days late. So I can tell you today, we have 150 hospitalized in St. Luke's health system for COVID. So I don't know what you'll see on the various benchmarks that you see on different portals, but we just got our update. So yes, yikes is right. So I think really making sure that those data converge in real time, because we fight that a lot with people saying, but the data don't say that, but those data are 2 days old.
Okay. Samantha?
I would like some comparative analysis to similar sized districts that have been open and what the spread is within their buildings with their teachers, staff, and students, whether it's Idaho, similar sized districts, or elsewhere.
Okay. Adam?
I would like to know what metrics the nurses are using when they send a symptomatic student back to class to continue being in the classroom. I personally have had a number of students who have been sent back even though they're displaying any number of symptoms that we are supposed to look for. And so I haven't been told, and I'm just curious as to what we're doing as far as making sure a student is, or being told that a student is okay to return to class and stay in school.
Okay. Other hands. Kyler.
Yeah, I sort of the other side to the coin, of course, obviously health is one, the educational outcomes. Do we have some sort of metric that shows us, and maybe a comparative analysis with other school districts, like sized, similar, you know, whatever the case might be, that show us, is this working? Is online working? Is in-person working? Is a hybrid model truly working for our kids?
One of the things that I suspect we will hear is, and this is really gets kind of to the meat of it, Kyler, is it's hard to, it may be too early to tell some of this.
Of course.
And so, but again, we're at this point, we're asking. So we will ask. Brooke?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so to go along with Kyler's question, I do feel like we have the metrics from the spring, and I would really be interested to know in what we've changed in our online platform from the spring. And then the other thing that I would like is, I would like to understand how many separate platforms are used by the district. So like, let's just say that elementary uses one platform, the high school uses another, and maybe the middle school uses another. I would really like a comprehensive way of understanding what all of those different modalities of communication are to parents from the district or from schools, and then maybe how they differ a little bit. I get that that's intricate. And then the other thing I would like to find when we're looking at other school districts or we're looking at community spread, just because from the way that I understood our last board meeting, our spread within our schools is just, it seems so much lower than what's outside of schools. So I would like to have more information on understanding, like, is it because our protocols are effective? Are there other schools that see more spread? And then I would really like to understand what it is that teachers don't feel are like effective about our current protocols. So to just kind of give a real life example, just because I talked to so many teachers and so many parents, a teacher said, you know, for example, I only had 7 people in class today, but I'm keeping my son home even if he has a headache, right? Just because we're like, any symptom can be a symptom. So if you have a headache and it goes beyond today, we're going to go to the doctor, but if it's just today, we're good. So I would like to understand too, those same metrics on qualifying, like when should we be sending our kids to school? When should we not? If that makes sense, because I think that goes along with like the differences in the way that the nurses are maybe understanding the, you know, the whole process. And then I would really be intrigued to know how all of these things differ from school to school, or at least from primary to middle to high school. That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful, but that's
Sorry,
okay.
I had a lot.
No, that's okay. Now's the time. There may be some others. I would just want to make a brief ask you all get a sense of the group. So this is a lot of stuff, and I think I understand why you want all of this stuff, because you want to make an informed decision and you want to make an informed proposal back to the superintendent. My question to you is, do you want, some of this may be easily gettable, and some of it may take some time, and some of it may not yet exist, some of this information. And so my question would be to you, do you want to get what you can get as we go? Do you want to, do you want to in any way put off a meeting until you have a certain amount of information? What's the sense of how you'd like to receive this and how you'd like to proceed as we get it? Brooke, I'll go back to you and then I'll hear from the rest of you.
I think that part of the community struggle from a parent's point of view is that we have been in limbo for so long, and it is so difficult to live your life that moment to moment to moment. I would be in favor of taking the information as we getting it and then proceeding, but I would also be in favor of taking what information is available if there's not like a complete answer to my question. So for example, if we could just do a comparison of where we are right now this year as to where we are with last year for like grades, right? So maybe we can't get the bigger piece picture, but we can get kind of a piecemeal snapshot. I would be willing to take some of those types of pieces of information in lieu of what's maybe not available yet. That was mine.
Okay, so we're scheduled to meet again on Tuesday and then again on Thursday. If we were to proceed that way, the information would come in as it's available, and we would address it as it's available and deal with it as we go. Is there anyone who doesn't want to go that way? See, yes, Jean.
I think the one consideration in this is that the data are changing so fast with the numbers we see. You know, we're implementing crisis standards of care, looking at how we're going to ration care. And we could literally see that hitting in 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. So the data that we have today may look really different if we're truly doubling numbers every 2 weeks. And, you know, if we're really having to look at who gets care, where we're changing internal systems and structures to try to accommodate. I think those are going to be factors that also have to be taken into account, because it's just the data are so fluid. None of us wants to see this. I think we can all broadly agree. We all want our kids in school. It's the best place for them to be. But as the data are changing so rapidly, how do we use that to make sure that the recommendation that we make on a Monday might look really different on a Friday based on where Idaho is?
Nate, and then Amy. Nate first.
Perhaps it might be helpful if we are all in some sort of email blast, just daily. They could update us with the Southwest District Health numbers, and we could just have that so that when we come into our meetings, we are prepared with as best we can. Or maybe it's, you know, St. Luke's or St. Al's numbers, whatever's the most current.
I'm guessing that the district has your email addresses because that's how they got the link to you.
Yes.
Okay. Amy?
So weird. Every time I hit unmute, I get this like pop up from somebody else, so it distracts me. I was just going to say that, you know, we're never going to have all the information that we want. This is the reality of the situation that anybody within leadership, and I'm thankful I'm not necessarily in leadership, but we are asked to make a decision or make a recommendation at the time with the information that's available. And so I think for this group, what's really helpful is this dialogue is what is the information that we really want in order to make a recommendation, knowing that, as Jean said, the information is going to change the next day. And that's the grace that I think that our community can provide, is the reality that we're not going to have the perfect picture, but we need to make a recommendation with the information that we have. And the Southwest District Health information, as you know, as Jean said, it's a little bit, there's a lag. And their website, they update that every day, which I'm sure many of you have that saved on your website. It's like phd3.idaho.something. So that information there's lots of data out there. So when we talk about what data from Southwest District Health, I'm curious to dial in on that, because there's so much already out there. What specific data is being asked for?
I'm going to get to you, Jana, in just a moment. I just want to have you all start thinking about this question. I wrote down probably a dozen different major pieces of information that you're interested in, which is totally fair. If you could prioritize that list, how would you go about, if you could put some information at the top 1 or 2 or 3 items, what would they be? Give that some thought as we go through the next couple of minutes here. Go ahead, Jana.
There we go. I was just gonna, I guess, food for thought maybe. We're asking for a really large list of information. I think we can simplify a little bit. At least half of us on here are teachers, and someone had asked data about how the students are doing grade-wise, if they're failing, if it's successful. And I mean, I can tell you the information right off. I can tell you right now, our students are failing miserably. I just had parent-teacher conferences with my own children, elementary school. So, I mean, I feel like we could take care of that snapshot real fast just by pulling the teachers on here without having to wait for a plethora of information that we seem to be asking for a gigantic amount of stuff. I think we were all selected for a reason, because we have valuable inputs from different perspectives and or experiences one way or the other, that maybe that would be something we could take care of without this enormous list.
Yeah, so I will discuss this with the superintendent. I'm sure at this point her head's exploding as we're going through this list, and work. We'll work on trying to identify what's possible, when it's possible. I don't think it's unfair to ask these kinds of questions, and it's just a matter of getting to what can we identify in actual metrics, what's anecdotal, and we'll come back with the best that the district and the health district and others can do. I think I saw Adam's hand up, and I see Brooke. I see you too. Adam next, and then Brooke, and then Biff.
Well, it was more just response to Jana. I think at times it's a little more nuanced than that. I could tell you that in class, my students are doing really well, but when it comes to at-home learning, there's a difficulty with getting students to complete the work. However, when we were online, I had a much greater participation. So it really isn't whether or not they're completely failing or completely doing well. My experience is just is a little more complex than that. So I think we would need to look at some data to make a more data-informed decision. But so what I would be curious is to see if we can get some of that grading or standards data, just to see how students are doing across the board, and maybe compare that to online. It would give us a fuller picture, I think.
And some of that may be available, some not. Some may be available as we go through this. So well, I mean, all we can do is report back to the superintendent what you're interested in, and see and do the best we can. So, but I want to make sure that I fully appreciated what it is that and I want to get back to this. Is there a way to prioritize what information is of highest value to you? Brooke, I think I saw your hand up, and then I think Samantha.
So I was thinking in a way to kind of maybe shorten that list. I would be really interested to know, because I do have a very, big understanding of what hospitals go through, and then you have your first responders. My concern really comes is that when we're looking at community spread, the schools seem to be one of the safest places for our kids to be. I'm wondering what metric, when the Idaho State Board of Education has come out and they keep talking about staying in hybrid and red and so on and so forth, would we have access to the data that they use to make that decision? And I say that because when we're looking at the whole state of Idaho and we're looking at all hospitals and cases and all the information that they have, could we have that information as to what the state metrics, like the whole state, uses to make those decisions for the whole state? Or is that not a thing? I could be asking for something that doesn't exist, but I know that when, the governor made his announcement and the State Board of Education has said, in red, we're finding a lot of schools are reporting, Bishop Kelly just reported, Nampa Christian is reporting lower cases of spread. So do we have that data, like Sammy had said, that we can get for all of Idaho, since we're looking at all of Idaho's numbers?
Okay. Before we go farther, I'm gonna give each of you some homework. Can I do that? I'm gonna type in the message box. Can you all see the chat box? I'm gonna type my email address in there. And what I'd like each of you to do when we're done here, as soon as you can, is send me your version of your list of the highest priority information. What is it that you are most interested in? And that will make it easier for us to consolidate that and come to a priority list. It's pretty simple once you know how to spell my name, which will be never. Just send that to me and I'll forward it along to the district, and that'll be very helpful in trying to get this down to a workable size. Before we move on to a couple of other issues, I am pretty serious about trying to get us done here tonight at 5, which is 18 more minutes, but I want to make sure that everybody has had a chance to say what they want to say. Nathan, did I see your hand? Okay, Biff?
Yeah, one of the things that I guess I was worried about is when we look at the mandate identifying metrics to move into a hybrid or a remote. I'm wondering if we're trying to come up with a one-size-fits-all type of thing when we have various different schools. The elementary schools are in a cohort system. A couple of other schools are in a cohort system, and so they're able to distance a little bit better than maybe a high school or a middle school maybe. And so I was wondering, are we taking that into effect also?
Well, and that gets back to my next topic that we're going to talk about here to kind of finish up for tonight. Other comments before I move us along? Can I see? Yes, Kim.
All right. I just wanted to go ahead with what also Jeff's saying and saying that elementaries are different than the middle schools and the high schools. I want us to remember that as we're starting to think about what's happening with the high schools is our 3 main high schools are actually intermixed. We transfer students every day amongst all 3 high schools. And so it's not just Columbia, in fact, Columbia amongst Columbia, Skyview amongst Skyview, or Nampa amongst Nampa. We need to remember that the way our school district works for our main high school levels is they are intermixed. And so because of that, all 3 schools are actually with each other, not just one at a time. So as we see the data with the high school teachers, middle school teachers, elementary school teachers, you can see that some teachers eventually are like, yeah, I could probably do this at this time. But you'll notice that when you get to the middle school, high school teachers, in some cases, social distancing and the intermixing is hard to prevent.
The other, yes, and it gets to a point I want to make as we pivot here a little bit. We're not going to solve this whole issue forever in this group, right? I mean, we have a fairly narrow mandate. It's complicated, but I think we're not going to make the Mars shot in 3 meetings. So I encourage us to get the information, identify the information that's most important, analyze that information, and then put together the best recommendation we can under the circumstances that we are functioning under. I'm hearing, the one thing I'm hearing loud and clear is there is a sense from a lot of you, if not all of you, that just generally speaking, you all need more information on an ongoing basis. Is anyone going to disagree with that? And so that would be one of the messages that I would take back to the superintendent is, as much information as possible, getting out to everybody, teachers, parents, everybody. Samantha?
Okay, I can unmute myself now. Would it be productive if in our priority list of information, we also included our personal preferable opening plan in the red, and then a possible compromise for an opening in the red to kind of expedite for your knowledge of who's where and what kind of compromises can we all seem to come to?
First of all, let me just, I think that's a fair question to ask everybody, to get input from everybody on, is what's the process you want to follow? Having a conversation like this is helpful to get things rolling, but at some point there's work offline that probably needs to happen. Ultimately, this is not my group. I'm here to help because I believe in the issue, and I believe in trying to get this all worked out. But ultimately, this is your group, and so I want to mediate as much as I can. But ultimately, it's gonna come down to how you want to proceed. So let me ask the rest of the group. Samantha suggests that maybe when you send in your email on your what information you'd like to have, also just put on there where are you at? What is your preferred guideline for so that we have a starting place to go from, we know kind of where we're at. How do you all feel about that? Nathan?
I think the group was set up 50-50, half of the teachers and half of the parents don't think we should do hybrid in the red, and half do. So we already know that part. We already know we're 50-50 there. Maybe we should focus on creative ideas and compromises to get the ball rolling.
Okay. Other thoughts? Jean?
If we can make it available, and I don't know if we can, would the predictive modeling that the health systems use be helpful? So you can see in 2 to 3 weeks where we see the trajectory.
I see a lot
Brooke's
of
got
nodding
hands
of
up.
heads going on here. Are the hands up to speak, or are the hands up to say yes? To speak. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm sensing that would be helpful. Samantha?
Yeah, just to follow up on Nathan's comment, that's kind of what I was thinking is, yes, we are already half and half. So we already know where we stand on priority number 1, but what would be a reasonable compromise for a second option if you are wanting remote completely? I understand that. What is the second option that you would be willing to compromise on? Or the other way, if you're wanting to go back in school, what is the compromise you're willing to make for a second plan? So that was kind of what I was gearing toward, just to clarify what I was saying.
Brooke?
I like the idea of getting more information from the hospitals. I've listened to all of the board meetings. What I'm really lacking is when that information is presented. So Jean, this may be directly to you, but I would really like to understand the reference from like schools in general, because when we're looking at Southwest District Health and we're talking about contact tracing, I would want to understand exactly, with the numbers of spread being so low, does the hospital feel like the schools directly make an impact on those numbers with everything else closing back down? So like going into stage 2, because there are so many communities that as they back down in stages, leaving schools open. So I don't know how to look at you. I'm really sorry. It's really awkward. But so I would really like to know if we could have information like that. I enjoy getting the hospital information. I also understand that hospitals are high risk, but we're not sending our kids to school to be seen or treated by a doctor. Parents aren't sending kids to school for that reason, and the job of the parent should be to keep the kid home if they are sick or show any symptoms. So I would really love to have a correlation of understanding if there is going to be compromise from parents on exactly why school numbers would add to the community spread if that's one of the lower risk spreads, if we're going to start closing things like, I think with this new phase, we'll close like Wahoo's, like those places where social distancing is hard. So I would love to see that, just because to me, education ranks really high up there. And obviously I've got a lot of parent contacts and I know how hard this has been for them. So is there a way to get that correlation, or am I asking for something that's not real?
If that was directed to me, thanks, Brooke. I think the reason it correlates is because we have kids who then go home. And if there's infection spread, whether it's even at the school level, because I think what we're seeing is that largely the efforts to mitigate in the school are working really well. But we know that most of the infection is community-based acquired. And so what we see though at the hospital level is the trajectory, that predictive analytics that show us, like the line might shock you guys. It goes, whoo. And so where that becomes a real concern is when we have grandparents who are raising grandkids, which we have a lot of those in our school district. If they get sick, the likelihood of an adverse outcome is higher for them, unfortunately. So what are we doing to protect our community? And so I think if we can, maybe we need to connect the dots better for all of you. I think that's what I'm hearing, and why the hospital data matters to these conversations. Because it's one of a myriad of pieces of information we need to consider. But I do think I would like to have us even focus more on what can we do to get the community to use the same methods to reduce risk that the schools are using, because it's working. And so rather than focusing all our time on
what do we do in our schools? How do we really impact the community where these kids are being, impacted by not being able to go to school because we have so much community spread. So I think it's duality. I will try to see if there's a way to have a couple of our docs link that better for you guys and why that would matter. For sure, I will work on that.
There are a couple of other folks here. I need to move on. We're running out of time for tonight. And I know a couple of other folks. Amy, I saw your hand. Christy, I saw your hand. Just let me make one note. I want to be careful about not exceeding our mandate here, and going beyond what the district, the board has asked the district to do. And again, all we're being asked to do, and there may become another time where there is a broader mandate, but not here. Identify the metrics for movement into hybrid or remote. That's the language from the district, from the trustees. And we're not being asked to go anywhere beyond that. And so I want to be careful about making sure that we maintain that focus. Amy, you're next.
You know what? I went ahead and just added it to the chat for time. But basically, I would just love to hear from this group and hope there's other people will chime in.
Okay, Christy, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that Jean had said, that I think that for one thing, it is hard to social distance, especially I'm hearing in the high school where the kids transfer. I've heard it from teachers that it's hard for them to social distance with students. And then those kids go home, and I know a lot of our kids live with grandparents. Some teachers I know have their elderly parents now living with them. And I just think it's something to consider. I know that there are smaller schools like Nampa Christian and Bishop Kelly that don't have a high spread, but they don't have the same, those kids living with grandparents in the high numbers like our district does. So I just think that's probably something to consider as well as when we think about going into the red. I know that Idaho was put back into stage 2 today. And so I think that those are just things that we need to think about. It's not something that's going to be lasting forever. And I kind of feel like, I think it was Adam that said that the kids were doing pretty well when they were strictly online. And I kind of felt like my kids got more instruction time and they were doing better when it was all online. So that might be something to kind of think about too.
Okay. I see 2 more hands, and then I'm going to try to bring this in for a landing for tonight. Adam?
So I'll be quick. I just would like the district to maybe define the metrics that they were thinking about, considering they weren't able to make a decision with the metrics that they had in mind for themselves. If we could have a definition of what those are, I think that would give us a better idea of what we're shooting toward. Second question is there a space where we all in this group can share like things we may have written or that we were going to say? Because I know these meetings are short and it's going to take a long time to tell our anecdotes and to bring in facts. And I personally like to digest information. If there was a place where we could write them out, share them, and have them read and prepared for the next meeting, I would love that.
I might on that point ask Peter before we're finished here if there's any way to create a SharePoint space, or even just would anyone object to sharing emails, or is that not what you'd like to do? I'm getting mostly thumbs up. No one's looking at me.
Just a comment. Emails get really cluttered really quickly.
I understand.
So
also
SharePoint.
I'm just worried about it, the process of setting up a SharePoint or another spot where, or a Teams place where we can all go. I'll just simply take that back to the district and see what's possible. Again, I know they have, and one of you or a number of you are interested in getting the actual language from the school board meeting on what the motion was. I will see that you get that. There was one more hand, I think, yes, Derek?
Yeah, I think that we can look at all the metrics we want, and that can be really complicated when you're trying to deal with kids. And not everything can be put down in a metric or a number. And there's the social emotional piece out there as well that has to be part of the puzzle, but it's really hard to put a metric or a number on that piece as well.
Yeah, getting a lot of nods of head. I think there's general agreement that some of this stuff is, even if you could eventually create some kind of a metric that based on real data, it's not here yet. We don't, it's not novel yet. So I think we all kind of appreciate that. So, wow. This is again, the thing I want to try to remind us of is there's a lot that we could try to do, and I'm very impressed by this group. For the time being, I mean, we might get back together and solve other problems, but for the time being, I need us to focus on the narrow challenge that we've been given. Let's get our arms around that, and then if there's interest on trying to go farther, we can certainly. I'm happy to see what can be done. Here's the homework. So first, you're gonna send an email to me. Everybody, did you get my email address? The first time I put it up, I didn't send it to everybody. You've all got it. Send me an email that has the list of, and don't list 10, list 2 or 3 of the main pieces of information. What information would be helpful to you now, and if you want to talk about what might be continuing information might be helpful, you can add that, but keep it to 2 or 3 so that we can create a reasonable priority list. Second, I like the idea of, I mean, yes, you were chosen because the group is sort of split. Both groups are split 50-50. So we have sort of a 50-50 split here. But still, send me what your proposed guideline would be and again, let me just go back to the language, to identify what metrics would you recommend for movement into hybrid or remote. That's the language. And then, is there a compromise that would be sort of 1A for you? Is there, if you had to pick something else, what would it be? I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. And I've now gone 1 minute over my time. The first question is, would there be any value and or interest in having an epidemiologist come and answer your questions? A lot of you are asking questions that, Gene has access to some of this data, others have access to it, but I'm just wondering if there's someone that we could identify where you could just spend a half an hour and pepper that person with questions. I'm not even sure it's a good idea, but I'm throwing it out at you. Is it a good idea, Gene, or is it a terrible idea?
I think it's a good idea. I also included an infectious disease doc. I kept Dr. Fauci busy.
So yeah, I'll call Dr. Fauci, but I think he's got other things going on. But how many of you would like that opportunity? Anyone just think it's a really terrible idea, waste of time? You don't dare look at me and tell me, do you? Okay, so I'm going to try to set that up. I've now exceeded my own authority here, but for what I'm getting paid, it'll be all right. The other thing that was suggested to me is it's possible that we could invite the governor to also address this group. Is there interest in that? I'm not sure we're going to hear anything different from what he said at today's conference, but it's an option. Is there? That one's a little less enthusiastic, I think. Okay, well, so I'm going to work on that. okay? And see what we can do. Still committed that by the end of our Thursday meeting, we have something we can report. That's our goal, okay? Because, yes, ma'am, Kim.
I know we said governor, but somebody that's more directly related to our community. I don't know if our mayor can get involved in this. I don't know if we want that, but our governor is involved in multiple things, but our mayor as well as directly in our community and sees what happens. I don't know if our group is willing to do that, but I think somebody that's more directly involved in our community versus somebody that is not might be better choice.
What I want to be careful about is I don't want to politicize this any more than it's already been politicized, you know, and even in you know, bringing the governor in does that a little bit, and so it's already.
I would say the mayor instead of the governor, but because he's not involved in us, so one politician is enough.
I'm gonna work on it, Jean. Maybe you and I can email back and forth, but I'm gonna work on an epidemiologist and a virologist and see what we can do there, and maybe even start our next meeting with that. Yes, Brooke.
Could I throw we have a lot of contacts in our parent groups for doctors as well. While I love getting the perspective of the hospitals aren't the people seeing or treating our children unless they have COVID or are deathly ill. Could I throw my hat in with a couple of names for virologists that may be willing to speak to the group as well, and you guys can check them out and everything else? I'm looking for people who do have a pulse on our children is my main concern.
Here's what I recommend, Brooke. Send me the names. I'm now volunteering for more work than I had signed on for, but that's okay. It's worth it. Send me the names, and let me work with. Again, this is a district. This is a district project, and so I don't want to get into the politics of medicine either. And so I want to get down to someone that we can all more or less agree on knows the science. And it may not be about the current data, but about how things are going, what the trend lines are, that kind of stuff. So if you'll trust me to kind of work through that, and I'll, you know, send me your ideas, and then I'll see what we can work up, and I'll respond to you before the next meeting. Kim, I think you had your hand up, Kim.
I was just going to say, I guess we just need to, be careful for who we bring in and what, depending on biases in different things. So in some cases, just specific contacts, depending on which side of the spectrum we all sit. I think we just need to be careful with that.
Right. So I've wanted to be open-minded about this whole process. We may, after I consult with the district, I may come back and decide we're just going to plow ahead with the information and this other material. We'll see how. But send me your thoughts. Your thoughts on the chat board are helpful. I've now gone 7 minutes past our time, but are there any final comments that for anyone who didn't get a chance to kind of be heard as we've gone through this last 15 or 20 minutes? Any kind of final thoughts before we move on to homework and planning for our next meeting? Anyone? I just want to thank you. I think this has been productive. I appreciate the difficulty that this poses. Let's, if we can maintain this kind of spirit, we're going to be fine. We'll send me your emails. I'll report back. I'll work with the district, and we'll put together. I will have for the next 2 meetings. We will have a specific agenda for each meeting, so you'll know what to expect. Okay. Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.